Hello and welcome to the Move Me Brightly podcast, part two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Revamp.
we're again. What was the movie with the part two?
Hot Shot.
Hot Shots.
The Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, woo, classic. Um, with the glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna try something new for you today, which is just we're gonna hit you with a couple topics, bang bang. See how that goes. We've brought my husband Jimmy.
Hello.
Who could prove to either be dead weight, or a titillating conversationalist. This is his tryout.
Time will tell.
All of my conversations with Jimmy in the past have been titillating.
Titillating, right?
I don't think that would be any different here.
People say that about him.
Yeah, he's got great tits.
Truly, yeah. Excuse me, I'm slightly under the weather. So I've been trying to get Tom to go with this idea of stand-up comedy to lead off the podcast, and he's scared to do it. So I'm gonna lead us off here with a quick 2-minute off the cuff stand-up routine. And
this is not a full. This is not just one joke.
This is 2 minutes of stand-up comedy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then as soon as it's over, I'm gonna let you guys give me feedback, and then we're gonna work from there until
you want honest feedback or like friend feedback?
No, just brutally honest.
Okay.
And then at the end of season 1, whenever I determine that'll be, I'll have a 6 to 8 minute comedy routine that I might go try.
Just that easy.
In real life.
Have you ever, before you do this, have you ever tried anything like that before?
That's part of my routine.
Oh, I'm spoiling it. Because I've done it once in New York.
Oh, well, that's a terrible place.
Fucking terrifying.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I might do it just in front of my friends. I don't know. But my routine will be, tit for tat. Tight. Because you guys will give me so much feedback. And we will determine the end of season 1 when my 6 minutes is.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming up to the stage.
Hold on, I gotta set the timer. I haven't tried this at all yet, so this could really be here. Calculate.
Are you timing it because you're going to do exactly 2 minutes, and like if you haven't hit the punchline, you're just going to stop?
Yeah.
Is that why you're timing?
Time me.
All right.
You didn't say on your mark, get set, go.
Okay.
So that was 3 seconds.
On your mark, get set, go.
You guys ever watch The Bachelor?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah. Well, a couple years ago, I was watching The Bachelor, and the ladies had to tell some jokes to The Bachelor. And it was a stand-up routine they had to do just off the cuff, and they got up there, and boy, it was whiff after whiff after whiff. And after watching it, I thought, I could do this.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Talking to the other people.
So after 6 years, these are my jokes. Let's start now. I was a mediocre softball player, but I think I'm a world-class baseball mom. We're on a new team this year, and I'm known for being really loud and boisterous in the stands, but on the new team, I'm trying to play it cool so they don't know, how loud I am. But then every time Oliver does something right, be it tie his shoe, take
Who's Oliver? Who's Oliver?
Oh, Oliver's my son. But you messed up my joke. So anytime Oliver, my son, does anything good, be it tie a shoe, take a drink of water, I'm like, yeah, let's get it. And they're starting to find out. Today, he got a catch at first, and I fell off my chair. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, things went well. Anyway, the rest of the moms are focused on things like clothes, feeding their children, things like that. And I'm just purely focused on the game. So people might think I'm a bit of a savant. Made it.
That was 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay, my feedback, and this is completely genuine. I think the funniest part, which would be amazing to do in an actual stand-up, is to start your stand-up by saying, "Okay, let's begin now."
I agree.
All right, I have a few jokes. Let's start now.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
That's so genuinely funny.
Have Jimmy start the timer.
Not even the timer stuff. Just you go up on stage, like,
That's really funny.
I got some jokes and we're gonna start now. That's so good.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you have your first 10 seconds already.
Okay. Well, that if you got 10 seconds of good comedy,
Yeah, it's not gonna be easy.
no.
It's not gonna
No.
be easy.
Okay.
I think the baseball mom stuff, it's missing humor, I would
Sure.
say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had to last minute that and thought of it today at the baseball field. I thought there's something here. And perhaps
I think there
that's
could be
what
something
it
there.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you even like you don't necessarily have to tell the truth. Like that can be your premise. And then just fucking make up something that happened. Like you had an altercation with another parent. Or like you started arguing about like if you are a savant and you're a world-class baseball mom, like maybe you know too much about statistics and you start arguing with another mom about how Oliver's on base percentage is actually way better, even though he doesn't hit home runs. And that makes him like a more valuable asset. And the mom's like, what? Like just doesn't understand at all what you're trying to say.
So the
Like,
thing about him tying the shoe and me cheering, that's no good.
I mean, it's there could be something there, but as you have it right now, it's too vague.
Too vague.
Like
Okay.
this ends with with him tying the shoe and you cheering. Like something more specific, I think would have to happen. Like either the way he reacts to it or something, or other people do, or specifically what you say about it. Like way
I
to
think
go.
building
Double
block
knock
to
that.
kind of explain where you're at, right? And who you are, but it would be on your way to something like the punchline.
You know, all these women that we saw at this live event, this live comedy event, they were all going for a shock and awe kind of
Agreed.
vulgarity that I don't think necessarily has to be there. And that's my premise, is that a woman could be funny for 5 minutes without it being shockingly sexual, which is what these all were. It was like,
Yeah.
it was too much.
Yeah. Maybe like with the Oliver shoe tying thing, you get a little too excited about it, like yelling at him like double knot that fucker or something like that. I don't know, but like something like that where you're like out of bounds in a blue way that isn't like overtly blue for blue's sake or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But just to highlight how intense you actually are, like about every little detail.
Today, actually, the most intense thing I got was throwing the ball back to the pitcher after he caught it. He was playing catcher, and I was like, "Come on, Oliver," because like you overthrow it, and these kids are stealing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times do you watch a little league game and like a single turns into a home run because people don't know how to field the ball?
Yeah, and I just
100%.
like down behind the catcher, like throw that. There's something there.
Yeah, there's something there, but you have the first 10 seconds.
Okay, great. Well, that's better than throw it all out. You suck. That you'll never make it. 10 seconds means is as good as 5 minutes.
I thought your timing and your pacing was good.
Thank you.
It was, yeah. I was worried that you were going to set up the story for too long.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fault of a lot of beginner comics, like setting up a premise. They get too in the weeds about stuff that isn't funny, but I think you did a good job of that.
Okay, thank you.
Like you set it up and started going straight into what you thought was funny. It wasn't, but you went into what you thought would be funny, which is good.
Good pacing. Great.
Good pacing.
Okay. All right. Now it's time to go into my first topic of conversation,
Topic 1.
which this will be the topic where I discuss a documentary and or podcast that I've listened to recently that I found inspiring. Today's documentary is The Greatest Night in Pop,
Okay.
about the recording of We Are the World.
Right. I've heard of this.
It was excellent.
That's
Lionel Richie.
yeah, is that the one where Michael Jackson is just like fed up with everybody?
So I think that's like an internet meme take on it, because I've seen those where he's like, and it doesn't come off that way in the
I didn't get that
documentary.
impression at all.
So I'd love you to watch it and give me your feedback. But I have seen it on the internet. I'm like, what are you talking about? Couple of takeaways. Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson wrote We Are the World.
Mhm.
The producer, I'm blanking on his name.
Quincy Jones?
Quincy Jones, yes. He was integral, and I have always heard of, the legendary Quincy Jones, but apparently the way that this got made was Quincy Jones just basically got Michael and Lionel Richie, and then he calls up Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles, and then he basically like backdoored it with the rest of the people. He'd be like, listen, I got Michael Jackson. If I got Michael Jackson, you're gonna want to be on this thing. And the way he like played everybody, I was like masterful. And we got to see my friend whose house I went to.
Oh, Kenny Rogers.
Kenny Rogers. What a voice. What a just beautiful, beautiful voice that
Yeah.
I didn't realize that he was just that good. And also Huey Lewis was good, and there was a portion where he had to stretch to a higher octave, and he was talking about how nervous he was. Found that very inspiring. But the biggest piece of genius in the whole thing was Bob Dylan was struggling. Now, I don't want to speak ill of Bob Dylan, but he was struggling, sort of finding himself in a choral arrangement, because he just goes,
He talks. He doesn't sing. Yeah.
yes. And he didn't know what to do. And so Stevie Wonder goes over to the piano and is playing it, and people are singing their parts, and it's time for Bob to record, and he just kind of panics, and he looks over at Stevie Wonder and he's like, Stevie, can you play it one more time for me on the piano? And not only does Stevie Wonder play it, but he sings it in Bob's voice the way that it should be done. And they were like, he has this gift of being able to sing other people's parts in their voice. It's like a mimic gift or something. So he sang that to Bob, and then Bob was like, I got it, and then was able to do his part, which, whew, what a talent.
That's really cool.
And then
Thank
Willie
you so
Nelson.
much, Stevie. That was fantastic, Stevie. Sorry.
Yeah, you have it too. Willie Nelson was there, and Willie is just Willie till the end. God bless him. So that's what I
And then,
and
Cyndi
I
Lauper's
found-
there, right? Too, right?
who?
Cyndi Lauper.
Yes,
Yeah, I
he
think
was
she was
there,
there.
screaming in her beautiful. Madonna and Cyndi Lauper had like a something at that time where they didn't want to be in the same room, and so did Prince and Michael Jackson. So Madonna and Prince didn't show up. But Michael Jackson was the first person there. He worked the hardest. He was like, you can just tell the amount of just like talent and work ethic in that man. And we're later going to go into conspiracies, and there's a conspiracy that Michael Jackson might still be alive, and I'm here for it.
Okay. Well, I will say, you're talking about Quincy Jones kind of like backdooring the rest of the talent in, and that reminded me of how the Traveling Wilburys formed a bit. It wasn't total like backdoor dealings, but it started because George Harrison was going out to dinner with the guy from ELO who ended up being in the Traveling Wilburys. I forget his name, and Roy Orbison.
Mhm.
And he idolized Roy Orbison, George Harrison did. And so they were going out to this dinner, and he wanted to do something. He asked at the dinner if Roy and the ELO guy would come over to his place the next day to help him with this song that he was struggling with. And so they said yes. And I think it was maybe Roy Orbison was like, I got to go to Bob Dylan's house because he's using my guitar that I want to use for this. And so they told Bob Dylan, like they went over and were like, we're going to go help George do a song. And Bob Dylan's like, well, you got to let me join you. Like, that sounds dope. And so they all go there, but they don't have all the equipment that they need to record. So they need to find a place like last minute, a studio. And so they decide, let's call Tom Petty because he'll be able to find us a person or like a studio that we can record in today. So they call Tom Petty and explain what they're doing. And Tom Petty's like, you got to let me in on this. And so he shows up and the five of them go to record together. And then that's how the Traveling Wilburys were formed.
That's really cool.
Really cool.
Just friends being like, let me in on that shit.
Yeah, very
Pretty
cool.
Which I feel like it probably wasn't difficult for Quincy Jones to sell that to people.
Right.
Like, hey,
Agreed.
I'm writing a song with Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie, like a big, majestic thing. I'm sure that was pretty easy to get people to be like, yeah, I'll be a part of that.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
You know, Lionel Richie is he's an aura.
Mm-hmm.
He just like is so Lionel Richie. You don't know anyone else like that in music, in life. He's just
He gives me Little Richard vibes a little bit.
okay. Okay.
I'd say that's like the one comp I have for him, like an evolution of what Little Richard was. Not necessarily musically, but just in terms of like personality. Like such a colorful, like over the top person
Mm-hmm.
in the way that
Definitely.
young Richard was.
Yep.
Lil.
That's what I call him. Yeah, he'd be Lil. He'd be Lil now.
Yeah, like it's almost a shtick. Like,
yeah,
very involved.
Yeah, like how much of this is genuine?
Right.
Versus how much of this is like that's just who you are.
Yeah. I found the Michael Jackson thing to be interesting because he was still like wearing ridiculous he was wearing like a gold jacket and sunglasses, and he looked like very much like he almost came in his Michael Jackson costume.
Mm-hmm.
But then like to see someone that kind of dressed in that way, but then like he was working hard.
Yeah.
And like doing all the things, and you could see him thinking through stuff, and it was cool.
Yeah.
Have you seen the interview back in the day? He gave like a really long sit down interview to like Diane Sawyer or somebody like that. And his like high pitched voice drops for a second and he has to like catch himself. Yeah. Like he starts talking like, yeah, and then I went back and like he like literally has to like catch himself to pick the voice back.
Funny. Huh.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. But I think we can all agree from that story and that documentary, Michael Jackson, a true mensch, just what a great guy. Unimpeachable, that guy. Like, salt of the earth. Great.
Nary a flaw.
Yeah. Nary one. We all love that man and we always will. The end.
Yep.
And he is still alive and very happy and doing normal things.
Yeah.
I've been watching some documentaries, but of a very different ilk. I've been on a serial killer.
Oh, which ones? Which ones you got?
I watched Netflix has that Conversations with a Killer series that has like I think they have 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
But there was the one on Ted Bundy that I watched.
Ted Bundy's fascinating.
Yeah, true psychopath.
So charismatic.
So charismatic. And there are so many guys, there are so many serial killers that you can kind of immediately tell something's wrong with them, at least personality wise.
Yeah.
Bundy is like
Not him.
He's not like that.
Now, have you seen the movie where the guy from High School Musical, Zac Efron, plays him?
No, I haven't. I know about it though.
10 out of 10 would recommend. Like, by the end of that movie, you're in love with Ted Bundy. Could be.
I mean, he had like serious relationships He had multiple girlfriends and he escaped prison twice.
I mean, he comes out into that courtroom, women are fainting.
Yeah.
It was like superstar, Beatles mania.
These relationships, they were in the know that he
No,
like.
so like he had one long-term girlfriend, I think, in Washington. Because I think he started in Washington, he went to Utah, Colorado a bit, and then when he escaped prison the second time, he ended up going down to Florida and killed a bunch of people in Florida. When he was like awaiting trial for murder in, I think, Colorado. He escaped and fled to Florida.
He jumped out of the window of the courtroom.
Yeah, that was the first time. They literally, because he decided he wanted to be his own representation in court. So he had access to the legal library in the courthouse, and they didn't have him cuffed up or chained. And he asked to go there so he could do some research for his defense. And an officer just let him in there alone. And like he just waited till he walked away and jumped out the window and ran away.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the other time that allowed for him escaping to Florida, he literally like carved a hole in the ceiling of his cell and escaped up through it and came down into an officer's, like a security officer's apartment complex that was part of the prison, and just changed his clothes into officer's clothes and just walked right out.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And that time he was gone for, I forget how long, but a decent amount of time.
Wow.
Enough to go on like another murderous rampage. And then like this was the late 70s or early 80s. So when he got caught in Florida for the murders he did in Florida, they didn't know that he was like nationwide manhunt Ted Bundy for a while. Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Really is.
Like there's a weird part of me. I always feel kind of guilty when I watch stuff like that because it does focus so much on the person who committed all of these atrocities, but there is just like a morbid fascination.
Yeah.
To help out people with that. And it is fascinating, Blayne, maybe because I saw your eyes like light up when I brought up this topic.
Yeah.
I think there is something weird and fascinating about women's obsession with serial killers and true crime in particular.
Totally. Are you familiar with the series Snapped?
No.
So do you want to describe it? I mean, it's your, or I can.
You go.
So basically it's just, what is it on Lifetime?
Yeah.
It's a Lifetime show where it's just women who have had enough and they snap and they tend to kill their husbands, right?
Boyfriends, partners.
Do they all do that? That's kind of often that's
Sometimes
the case.
they kill other women who are having a relationship with their husband.
Yep. But it's women who've had enough and they go,
Snap.
they snap and they go on some kind of rampage. And it is one of Blayne's favorite things to watch falling asleep. It's like a lullaby. Like just, listening to the show. And it's like, it's very troubling to me. I mean, it goes to the heart of what you're saying. Like, what is the, psychologically where, and Blayne's not alone, a lot of women really love these stories of, I've had enough and I'm going to kill people.
Blayne, as someone who is, would you say you're like a true crime lover?
No, yeah.
Okay. So Jimmy, as someone who is the husband of a woman who is a true crime lover and goes to bed basically dreaming of women who murder their husbands, do you have any personal fear for your safety living in that house?
For whatever reason, like I've made peace with it, being like, this is just something that Blayne finds interesting, like I don't think that you sympathize with these women who, but maybe you do. I don't know.
Tough news. If there's a life insurance policy with a big payout, I understand sometimes.
What I get stuck on is more that, not that what it might say about Blayne. I'm not worried about that or her having an interest in, husband killing. It's much more odd to me. Like, why is this soothing? Why would you want to fall asleep and have your last thoughts of the night you know, you're drifting off and you
I've
hear,
explained this so many times
I know,
to you.
but I'm
Well,
still,
explain it to me, because I will say, as someone who, like, I watched the Bundy one. I watched the Netflix show Mindhunter, which is an incredible show, the David Fincher show about like the beginnings of serial killer profiling in the FBI. And then I watched a documentary on BTK on,
Mhm.
and that was all like late night going to bed. And I
Yeah.
had some fucked up dreams after, like, it was like a 2 week binge basically of doing that.
Mhm.
And my dreams, they weren't necessarily all like murderer dreams or
Yeah.
anything, but they were like disturbing in other ways. And then there was one dream I had in particular where I was like in a hotel and I was with a big group of people. And I think in my dream I was supposed to know them all, but I didn't, like, personally. They weren't anyone familiar to me in my real life. But we were like, there was a dead body in the hotel room, and we were figuring out how to cover up the crime. And at some point, either somebody in the dream said it, or it just like clicked in my dream, like my cognizance of what was happening, that like we had all done this once before and gotten away with it. So this time around shouldn't be a big deal. And then like my real world morality kind of like infiltrated into the dream. And I was suddenly sitting there in the dream, like, I'm a fucking murderer. And that I can never take that away now. Like, that is something I've done now, and that will be with me forever. Like, what did I do? And then I woke up and I was so relieved.
oh my goodness, yeah, for
Like, to
sure.
have that just be a dream. But like that disturbed me. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, as someone who like uses that as kind of like their chamomile tea of TV
Right.
watching. Like, what does that mean to you?
Well, I like a narrator. I like a omnipresent.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? All knowing,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like the omnipotent.
omnipotent narrator. I like that in movies. I like it in TV shows. You know, a good History Channel documentary is a similar kind of salve for me of the cadence of here's a little interview, here's a little narration. Um, so that's a
So part of the appeal is just the sound of the show, the
yes, I
pacing of
like the
it,
cadence.
which that I can get.
Yeah. Um, and I think it's the same thing that attracts me to like serial killers, sorry, conspiracy theories. There's like a part of my mind that really likes to see if I can figure out puzzles. It's like it's also, I think, what makes me want to be an artist, what makes me want to do trading, all of these things that I'm like kind of addicted to is all part of figuring out some type of puzzle. Like, I don't really like the one that you're talking about where they interview the serial killers and they're already caught. Those aren't as appealing to me because it's kind of like sometimes in Snapped they have the wrong person, you know, and I like those where you have to be like, well, did this person do it or did this person do it? My favorite was so sorry, my brain is just not working. The Manitowoc County,
Oh, Manitowoc County, Wisconsin, the making of a
The
murder.
Making of a Murder.
Oh
Because
yeah. Yeah.
to this day, that man's in jail, and I don't know if he burned that body or not. And we have like been up this tree and down another one. We've analyzed the bones, we've looked at the car, we've like done all this. Jean-Benet Ramsey is fascinating to me because we like don't know the answer, but like it all kind of points to the brother, but then they're saying somebody broke in, and those kind of things are just can't get enough
And
of.
that,
But
yeah, and that's why, like, I think the show that brought podcasts to the mainstream was Serial, that first season of Serial with that guy
Ariel
Adnan.
is the gold standard
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
where they're driving around in the car, pinging the cell towers and all of that. Like, that's really one of my life dreams is to sink my teeth into a case like that,
Mm-hmm.
into a real life. Like, I don't know. I'm just really interested.
One of the coolest experiences I had from that, just as like a viewer or a consumer, is that book I'll Be Gone in the Dark by
Yes, I read
Michael
that.
McNamara about the Golden State Killer. And I read that it was published posthumously because she died of cancer or something, the author. But I was reading that book and it ends with her having a decent idea of who she thinks it is, but not fully knowing. And then unfortunately she dies. And then like 4 months after the book is released, they find the guy
Yeah.
after decades of a cold trail.
Wild.
And they actually found him and prosecuted him. And they actually turned it into an HBO docu-series, like a limited series thing, where they like, it's based off of her book, but they interview, her husband was Patton Oswalt, so they interview him a lot. And then I think there's an episode that they filmed and released like a year and a half later, after like the conviction and sentencing, going back to all the people they had talked to throughout the documentary. Like, how do you feel now that there's closure? Like, we actually found this person that you'd all been worried about for like 40 years.
Yeah. I get like a real ick factor when it goes into sort of the depth of the crime or the like psychology behind the person who did it, or
You don't like gore.
I don't like gore. Like we've talked about this, all the Saw movies. I love a horror, but things that go too in depth with that really freak me out. So I have to be very careful that I'm on sort of the science side
Right. Okay.
of it.
I think we differ there a little bit because I'm more into like the morbid curiosity of it. Like,
Yeah.
I like the Conversations with the Killer series because what interests me is like trying to get a read on the person who did it and just trying to like understand like what drove them to be the type of person that they are. But I think it's interesting again with women because I've talked to a few like female true crime fans, and I think like what I would say would be the most common consensus is it's women who like, and I think it's in the same way that like when the world or the country's going through a really dark place, horror movies tend to do really well. Like
Yeah.
post 9/11 during the Iraq War and Abu Ghraib and everything is when the Saw franchise really picked up. The Great Depression is when all the Universal horror monsters became super popular. And I think it's a way for people to like safely deal with anxieties that they're dealing with.
Hmm.
Is why like horror movies in times of unrest become very popular. And I think it with women, not everybody obviously, but for a lot of them, it's a way to deal with like fears they have about that topic. Because obviously women are predominantly the victims, women and young children are
Yeah.
the victims of like mass murderers and serial killers and stuff like that. And in the same way that like there's a subgenre in horror movies called rape revenge movies. And it's literally like the idea behind that type of movie is a woman is brutally attacked and raped in the beginning. And then over the second half of the movie, she like builds herself back up and goes out and gets bloody revenge on all the people who wronged her. And I find those movies really like exploitive and not fun to watch because they get really graphic. And it's like I just don't get the appeal, but women love that genre. And I think like in particular I went to like a horror convention thing once and there was this academic who spoke on that genre and like published a study on it, and it's specifically a lot of women who have dealt with like sexual assaults in their life become like really attached to watching those movies because it's a way for them to like safely get their like rage out and feeling of like a sense of like not necessarily closure but a sense of like righteousness at what happened to them in real life, which is like a fascinating idea behind human psychology, that you would gravitate toward the thing that traumatized you. So I don't know. I'm just going to take a quick screenshot of you two in case Blayne does murder you, Jimmy. This can be like the image that the news reports use.
Thank
Like,
you.
they were a happy couple who hung out in their bed bug queen size bed, and
Yeah, exactly.
little did they know things would go terribly wrong.
I would need like a large vat of acid,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
acid.
a bathtub,
A fire pit in your backyard.
fire pit post acid, and then, then I would have to put like I think a river is a great way to dispose of things because it can just be dispersed out into nature. Um, I've got a plan.
Any forensic identifiers would disappear after a few days of Jimmy's corpse.
Teeth, like throw those teeth in the river.
Yeah.
They're gonna go down like pebbles or whatever. You can't like safely dispose of teeth.
You mean
Jimmy,
like
do you have any tattoos?
No.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Identifying marks.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I read a murder mystery once where the Mississippi was like one of the main character, like the Mississippi River was the main character, and like throw something in the Mississippi.
it ain't coming back.
It's gone. So I'd have to get to the Mississippi River. Yeah. You
Yeah,
need
Would not suffice.
you need to leave your cell tower, your cell phone here. Your cell phone is,
yeah. You can't dump him with the phone in his pocket.
no, they'll find him.
You'd have to throw those glasses in the fire.
Yeah.
And maybe like pack a suitcase.
Like he was going somewhere. Yeah.
You know.
Maybe put his cell phone in his suitcase and like go to Delta and like check
Check
the
it.
bag.
Yeah.
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 But then you would be seen on the security camera.
Yeah. Let's roll that back.
Maybe park it outside like a bus or a train depot.
You know those old movies where they would like throw whatever it is on like a garbage truck and it'd be like beep,
Yeah.
beep, maybe something like that.
Yeah. I think honestly, I think that's how a lot of successful people get away with it is they just like dispose randomly like that.
Yeah.
Like no real rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah. You can't do where they think you will. Burying someone in your backyard is the number one way to get caught.
I think people who do that want to be caught.
Yes. I mean,
Like,
I'd even thought if I was in New York and I killed someone, I'd have to dismember the body and then throw a different piece of the body into a different trash can. Because it goes, and then you put the gun in a different one or whatever, and you can't piece all that back together.
I genuinely think that most of the serial killers who have been caught, who are intelligent enough to get away with years of spree killing, like Ted Bundy or whatever, they mainly get caught for two reasons. They get their urges overwhelm them to the point where they get sloppy, or they want to be caught. They want the notoriety of being known as like I'm BTK. I'm the Night Stalker. I'm this person. Like
Right.
they need to be able to take credit for that. Like the BTK documentary I was watching, like he didn't get caught for 30 plus years. And there's a period where in like the late 70s he had killed like 10 people, and he heard on the news, and he had been quiet for years. Like he was happily married, he was a good father to his kids by all accounts and stuff like that, like totally normal seeming dude. And he had stopped because his first daughter was born, and he was like, I just decided to become a father, so like I stopped what I was doing. And he saw on the news that someone was going to write a book on the BTK, the unsolved BTK killings, and they were going to focus on the 7 murders that he had done. And he got so upset because he knew he had killed 10, not 7, and that they were going to get the story wrong, that he resumed his activities and started sending taunting letters to the police station saying like, you got it all wrong. Like these 3 murders that you're not connecting to me, those are me, and I'm going to kill more now. Like it bothered him that his life work was not properly recognized.
Interesting.
It was like that
Okay.
hubris. Yeah, BTK is the name of him.
BT, what does that stand for?
Bind, torture, kill.
Hmm.
He would tie people up and like asphyxiate them and then do his little
Got it.
sort of thing. But yeah, total like have you guys ever, you would love the show Mindhunter, Blayne, if you've never seen it on Netflix. You have to watch that show. You would love that show because it is all about, it's literally about 2 FBI agents who start the profiling of serial killers and like how they form that database. And it's them going to killers who have already been caught and interviewing to try to understand their like personalities and anything that they like, any commonalities that they can use to find. And then they go out into the field and use that stuff in practice to try to narrow down suspects in ongoing cases.
Huh.
To figure out who are the likely suspects based on the information we have.
Like that.
Is this your topic you wanted to discuss?
No, I was doing it based on your topic of documentaries.
I think this has gone swimmingly.
Yeah. My topic was going to be, it's kind of boring, but it's also movie related.
Okay.
wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the Oscars because the Oscars are a week from tomorrow.
Okay.
Maybe already happened by the time this is released. I don't know. But I wanted to know because I'm a big fan of the Oscars. I'm obviously a big movie buff, as you both know.
Yeah.
As a child, I grew up loving watching the Oscars, even when I was young enough for like I hadn't seen a lot of the adult movies that had come out yet. But I just love like the pageantry of it all and like the celebration of film. Like whenever they would like the Oscars would come on the air and they would do like a whole montage of the year in movies.
Mhm.
Like there's something about that that would just be like, this feels like home to me. Like I just love this. Um, so I was curious, A, if you've seen any of the movies that are up for all the major Oscars this year, and I can tell you the list of them if you don't know. And B, what are your thoughts on like the Oscars and award shows in general?
Jimmy, why don't you answer our thoughts on Oscars and award shows in general?
So I've known since I met Blayne that she's really into Oscars and award shows. She likes the red carpet, she likes the pageantry, she likes the fashion, she likes the show. She's into it, and it predates me.
Mhm.
She's been into it for a while. And the Oscars is the king, right? Like that's the number one.
Yeah.
And she would be down to, you know, talk about which is going to win in each category, like get that into it. I think it's probably a bandwidth thing where pre me and pre kids, you probably had a little more time to, and you would probably make a point to watch every single
Like to
movie
see
and like
all the
think
I like to
about
be
what it's going to
prepared.
be,
Yeah.
which you don't do any of that anymore, really.
No.
But you're still totally down for watching the
It's
Oscars.
a holiday. It's my Super Bowl Sunday, I would
Yeah,
say. Yeah.
really
So
likes it.
you'll still watch it this year, even though you haven't seen a lot of the movies.
So I've watched some of the award shows leading up to it. So I feel I'm pretty like in the know kind of about what's been going on. I know kind of who's won. I know I'm pretty interested in the Barbie snub this year,
Mhm.
actually. That's an interesting topic to me. I've seen that movie twice and I have my own personal thoughts on it, but it's interesting. I don't know, that's interesting to me. And yeah.
And like, do you when with the Barbie snub, do you mean Margot Robbie not getting actress or Greta Gerwig not getting director or both?
Well,
Wasn't the snub was the only award that went to it was best supporting
Ryan
actor for
Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
Right. Was
And
that
well, it also got Best Picture,
Oh,
but it was the only acting. Or no, America Ferrera I think is also nominated for
yeah.
okay.
supporting.
Well,
So I
then
think it was basically Barbie herself didn't get nominated,
And Greta.
and Greta for director.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget. I think it got script, and then like I think some technical awards. It also got like probably costumes and makeup and stuff like that. But I think everyone thought I think Margot Robbie in particular was surprising because I think not only did they expect her to get nominated, but she was basically one of maybe three who I think most people thought had a chance of winning Best Actress.
oh,
And so to her not get nominated at all, I was surprised by that. I think when it comes to Greta Gerwig personally for director, I liked Barbie, but I don't know who you take out to give Greta Gerwig that nomination. Like for the other people.
okay. When you consider who else is there,
Yeah, like you had Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, who's the favorite.
Mhm.
Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Mhm.
Uh, you have Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest, which is an incredible movie. Um, what were the other two that got
Is
nominated?
Tar in there?
That was last year.
Oh,
Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah, did she get nominated for director?
I don't know.
Yeah, she did. And that movie's fantastic. If you want a good courtroom drama about like did the wife kill her husband or
Yeah.
not?
That's my most favorite thing, and it's on my number one list of movies to watch. But instead, the night I was gonna watch it, I watched the Elvis movie.
the
Priscilla.
Buzz Lerman?
No, wait, no.
Wasn't it some big? Is it Buzz Lerman? But
Yeah. The one about Elvis with Tom Hanks. Is that the one you're talking
no, no,
about?
no, 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 no. The one about his wife.
Yeah,
Uh,
Priscilla.
Priscilla. I watched Priscilla because my girls wanted to watch Priscilla, but Anatomy of a Fall, I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, based off everything you just said earlier, like a true crime mystery when the entire movie is basically trying to analyze, is this woman guilty or not? Like
Yeah.
that's the entire movie, and there's a lot of courtroom scenes going into it, and like their son gets involved. It's great. It's really, really good.
There's a Swedish movie called The 12 that I would say would be like my number one movie in that genre. It's all
Okay.
subtitled, but it's about every single juror and what they're sort of going through and if this woman had done it, and it is just 10 out of 10 for me. So I'm
Is
looking
it, is it like a remake of 12 Angry Men?
I don't know, I haven't seen that.
Because that's about the 12 jurors on a case trying to decide if the 12, let me see.
So it's
Okay. Oh, that's a TV show.
yeah, it's a TV series.
Got it. Okay, I'm looking it up right now. I'll have to watch that. That sounds good.
It is exceptional.
And then the other director was Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, which I assume you two haven't seen that movie.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I didn't like it, but a lot of people really love it. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say I loved it. But again, the directing in it is great. So I just don't know where Greta Gerwig fits in there, but Margot Robbie not getting nominated is very surprising to me.
I
Although I
I
think we can all agree that like Gosling's the highlight of Barbie, right?
he was very good.
He's the best part of that movie.
It's very good. I thought Barbie was interesting and like pretty good. I would say my highlight, other than Ryan Gosling, was the Indigo Girls. The use of the Indigo Girls was perfection for me. But I mean, I went with other women who cried, wept, and I did not feel quite as moved, Heart of Stone. So, I mean, does it deserve the accolades it's getting? It's hard for me to say because I wasn't as moved by it on a personal level as some have been.
I also think it's interesting because, and I think this also speaks to the idea of award shows in general, because like as maybe slighted as the cast, the crew, and the fans of that movie may feel, like that movie single-handedly helped save the movie industry last year during the strike. I mean, that a Barbie movie made over $1 billion. That's insane. And that should never have happened. That could have just as easily been some like that hot Fritos movie that came out, Flaming Hot or whatever, that was like dumped on a streaming service and nobody ever saw it. Barbie could have easily been a movie like that. Instead, it was way more interesting than it had any right to be, like way better told than I think a movie based on the Barbie doll had any expectations of being, and became a cultural phenomenon. And I think like ultimately that matters way more than Margot Robbie winning or getting nominated for not winning an Oscar. You
And I
know?
think that's the fans' cry is just how do you not put stock into what it did for movies?
Yeah. Well, the
I would,
Oscars are a popularity contest. They never
I
have
would
been.
like to take the conversation, since I think we're going to skip my conspiracy segment. I will say that the recent, please don't come after me, but I will say the recent rumors swirling around the Jeffrey Epstein situation, I think have cast this season's award shows um in a weird light. And it could just be that like I've watched some of the documentaries on Jeffrey Epstein and maybe more sort of
Attuned to that.
thinking about
Yeah.
it through that lens.
What are the new rumors? You have to fill me in on what you're talking about.
Just that some major Hollywood celebrities were on his flight list, and perhaps went to the island and stuff, and that's kind of like rumored to be true. Um, and it made its way. Did you see the guy who did The Office in England?
Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais. Did you see when he hosted and
He mentioned it.
he
Basically,
mentioned it?
he was like,
He called out like Tom Hanks in a very like awkward kind of way, and Tom Hanks got upset, and that was last year, and the rumors surrounding that have just built and built over the past year. So I think I'm interested for the opening speech this year and how they sort of sidestep some of that controversy.
I assume they're not even going to sidestep it. I assume they're not going to talk about it at all.
I would agree.
Well, they talked about it at the Emmys.
The
Um,
Epstein stuff.
yeah.
Hmm.
Billie Eilish won for the Barbie song, and Billie Eilish went up there and looked around and was like, every single person in this theater terrifies me, which was like a direct response to the Jeffrey Epstein. I think it has been somewhat spoken about in most of the award shows this season in some way.
I mean, I don't know specifically who you're referring to about the new stuff about Epstein, but it would not surprise me at all to learn that like 500 people in Hollywood went to his island at a certain point. Like, probably one of the least surprising things about Hollywood to hear would be that, I would say. So, that's interesting and that's a bummer. I don't know. I don't. I remember when obviously the story broke and like the initial wave of people who were involved, like Trump and Clinton and Malcolm Gladwell and stuff like that. But I know aren't they supposed to release like a whole cadre of names soon?
Yeah.
Court ordered.
Yeah.
Um,
Ron
that
DeSantis
hasn't come out yet, right?
just signed something this week. I don't know why he holds the
Authorizing it?
keys to the kingdom, but
Huh.
he signed something to release significantly more information about it.
Well, a lot of it is Florida based, Palm Beach and stuff. So he's
Oh,
related.
makes sense.
Yeah, it's dark,
It's dark.
but
Yes.
you know, I don't really know what to say. It's a bummer, but yeah, not surprising. But I don't think Christopher Nolan was on that list, and he's going to clean up at the Oscars. So yay, good for him and good for Oppenheimer, I guess. Oppenheimer, if you want to watch the movie that's going to sweep the Oscars, that should be the movie you watch before the award show
I
comes
really
out,
want to see it.
because I think that's going to win all the big stuff.
Yeah. He fascinates me. His line of movies fascinates me. Kind of his like the way he sort of massages the narrative between like what's going on and what people think is going on. It's all he's just fascinating to me.
Yeah. I mean, he always has like, he's interesting because he always has three stories running simultaneously in his movies, and he's
Yeah.
constantly going back and forth between them. So like he'll build story A to a natural crescendo, and then right before it peaks, he'll cut back to story B, which is further behind in its arc. So like there's always a sense of forward momentum.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like there are no dull points because there's always something new that's happening in building, which is a pretty fascinating way to go about making a movie. And I mean, he made a 3 hour movie about J. Robert Oppenheimer that's like thrilling. It's like really exciting to watch. So
And
it's on Peacock
he
if you have
do
Peacock.
Interstellar.
Yeah.
Is that I haven't seen that. Is that as good?
I like Interstellar. I don't love it, but I think that was more just for like nerdy reasons, like the way it was edited kind of bothered me a little bit. One thing about Nolan is he's not great about like male to female relationship stuff. Like the women that he writes are never the best or the most like three-dimensional.
Hmm.
I think that it can kind of suffer there at points. Like even in Oppenheimer, Emily Blunt's really good, but like Florence Pugh's character is kind of just almost uses like a token to tell Oppenheimer's story versus like her own story as a person. So sometimes he struggles there, but then like a movie that not a lot of people love that I think is amazing is Tenet. That another like time travel movie that he did. And to me, that was so great because to me, I viewed it as him being like, okay, I'm good at telling like these mindfuck stories with big action set pieces and a lot of like moving pieces and forward momentum. I'm not great with relationship stuff. So I'm just going to focus on all the stuff I'm good at and like not worry about the stuff I struggle with. And I think that's why that movie did so well for me because he's like, yeah, he's like, I can't write a good love story, so I'm not even going to try. And let's just like do fun people fighting backwards through time sort of shit. Or like that's why I think Memento is so good
Yeah.
too, because it doesn't focus on a relationship or anything. It's just like this guy having this backwards in time journey with a friend of his who's not really a friend. That
The way
kind of thing.
he does time, just very interesting.
And he's finally going to get his flowers this year. His Oscar flowers. Have you never heard that saying before? Getting your flowers?
I'm not.
No, that's like when you're well, like someone getting their flowers, like they're finally getting recognized for something
Oh,
that they should have been recognized for.
just before we wrap this up, who was your biggest loss in the movie industry this year? Personally.
This, I'm never good at remembering who passed away when. I think all time for me, my biggest losses are James Gandolfini and Philip Seymour.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's mine too, but
Those are two that like I just can't get over. Like
Yeah.
still haunts me because they had so much more life left.
you know, I saw Philip Seymour Hoffman. We saw him on a plane.
Recently?
He was just exceptional. But Robin Williams too. I think about him
Yeah.
probably once a day. Just kills me.
Yeah.
Anyway, this year for me, it's Matthew Perry.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like gutting.
Yeah. That was really sad.
But
The musician John Prine, he was like the first COVID celebrity casualty
yeah,
early 2020, and that one hit really hard because I'm a big John Prine fan.
Angel from Montgomery.
Correct.
His self-titled album, one of the best albums ever, his debut. Go listen to John Prine's self-titled album, people. You'll love it. Great story about a soldier traumatized from Vietnam and the government not helping. A person who like lost their loved one and then lived the rest of their life alone and going through that as like a ghost in New York City because they don't care about him anymore. Just great stuff. And from like a 25-year-old, how do these people write this shit at 25?
Time travel.
Yeah, probably.
We should get Christopher Nolan into the. I see it. All right. Well,
Yeah,
I thought that episode was, 10 out of 10.
Mhm. You have your first 10 seconds of your comedy.
Yeah. 10 out of 10 out of 10.
I know we're saving then the conspiracy theory segment for another episode, but do
Yeah.
you just want to lay out, we won't get into a discussion, but lay out a conspiracy theory you believe in just for the listeners to chew on until the next episode?
There is a large chance that Princess Kate died in December.
Mhm.
That's my
That's good, babe. That's a
conspiracy.
cliffhanger right there.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's possible, or it's like a Gone Girl thing. She's faking her death.
Yeah. I've gone through 3 different distinct possibilities, and I'm going with I think she's dead. And there's footage of ambulances leaving Buckingham Palace going to
No,
the
let's not let no.
I think that's my strongest case. I think she's dead.
Okay, so if you're listening to this and you want to come back next episode, do some of your own research.
Probably going to be alive and thriving and
But then you'll have a new conspiracy about that it's a double.
their masks.
Loves a mask body double.
It's like a Mission Impossible Ethan Hunt thing.
You can tell when someone's in a mask.
Like when Trump had fake Melania for a few appearances. That when he was president.
A lot of people are fake.
There was like 2 or 3 weeks of events where it like clearly wasn't her. I was like, this woman.
The event that tipped off my conspiracy into wildfire rage was when Hillary went down with the flu. And then they took her over to Chelsea's apartment. And then she popped out right as rain, like 2 hours later, looking 10 years younger and wearing her arm bag on the wrong shoulder. And then went over and hugged a child, which you're not allowed to do as a presidential candidate. You cannot interact with the public. And she's out there, no security, and just walks over and hugs a child like it's not Hillary. And that's how
Wait,
I got
you can't interact with the public as a presidential candidate? What do you mean?
Can't just go over and hug a kid. The kid like broke out of the crowd and ran up to her, and Hillary gave her a hug. I'm just like, no, that cannot happen.
Hmm.
So, and if you look at the picture of Hillary before she goes down with the flu and 2 hours later, literally she looks 10 years younger.
Maybe Chelsea gave her some of her youthful adrenochrome.
There we go.
Yeah, I think it was a body double though. I don't think that was a mask. I think it was a body double, which they have.
Of course they do.
Obviously, yeah. So
Assassination attempt.
yeah, I'm sure what's her face? Trump's wife was also body double.
Yeah, Fidel Castro, when he was running Cuba, he had like 15 other Bostros.
Yeah.
Really?
Around, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Like a bunch of fake Castros that he would just send out and see, like, is anybody tailing me?
Yeah.
Huh.
Am I getting assassinated today? Go check.
Yeah.
So, I forget which government it was, but a government sent a woman to assassinate Castro, and he seduced her and got her to admit her plan, and they had sex. And then she left, like mission failed.
Interesting.
Yeah. Castro was a G. He was a pimp. Just like Michael Jackson, two great guys.
Yeah. A couple of winners right there.
Castro, MJ, rest in peace.
Okay. So all the allegations against Michael Jackson, which like do seem like cold hard evidence, like even if nothing is proven, weird guy.
Yeah.
Got himself in a lot of compromised situations.
Yes.
Strange guy. You have admitted on this podcast that your favorite CD of all time, just a random Michael Jackson CD you found in a rental car. So how much do you let what has happened with Michael Jackson personally influence your love of his music? And I know the answer, and it is like 0. Because I've been with you. A little Michael Jackson comes on, and you're there. So talk all you want about weird guy or whatever. But I mean,
Why are
in
you
real life, I haven't seen you, really standing up for the kids.
Yeah, I was not accusing you of anything. If anything, I was trying to acknowledge my own complicitness in that. Because I am a big Michael Jackson fan. He was an amazing musician. I still like listening to his music. And he's a pedophile. That is all true. That is all 100% true. I still watch old Roman Polanski movies. He raped a 14-year-old girl. I think for me, where I draw the line, and it's a little different now for Michael Jackson, although we'll get into this with another one of your conspiracy theories, but he's dead. And so I know...
Allegedly.
Right. To support him isn't to enable him doing anything else because he's dead.
Yes, like a Roman Polanski movie, I have Blu-rays of his old movies. And by watching those, I no longer financially support him. I'm not going to go watch a new Roman Polanski movie that comes out in theaters. Because he's
what about the guy that married his stepdaughter?
Woody Allen, same thing. I'm not going to go see a new Woody Allen movie. But Michael Jackson is dead, and I don't buy new MJ stuff either. But like, say he was alive and coming out with... I'm streaming it on Spotify. Yeah, 1000%. But like, whoever that goes to, if it goes to his kids or Paul McCartney or whoever owns his catalog now, like, that's fine. He's fucking dead. He can't profit off of it anymore. So that's kind of where I draw the line. I'm not total, like, to me, there's also, it reaches a point where, like, depending on the seriousness of the crime is one thing, but if you're gonna also morally boycott artists for bad behavior, if you start down that rabbit hole, you're never gonna stop.
True.
Ever. You know? And I know there's a difference between pedophilia and like cheating on your wife or whatever, like a Jay-Z Beyonce situation. Like, who, I don't give a shit about that. That's their own marriage. I don't care. But a lot of people have done horrible things. And I think, like, I think for me personally, you eventually just have to decide where you draw that line between art and artist. And for me, it's like, I'm not going to put money in people's pockets who I know are horrible people.
You see, they've reopened up the Alec Baldwin case. I can't wait to
Yes.
know
Yes,
live through that in a future episode.
I think he might be in trouble. I think he might be. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's ever going to see prison time, but I think he's in trouble. I think he's in some trouble.
Yeah.
That poor girl that was the weapons assistant or whatever seemed like she was riding the struggle bus during the filming of the movie.
Like she was trying to get to rein it in.
She was just basically like the prop person, right? Who was on set and responsible for weapons and whatever. And she, in theory, should have been the primary one to make sure that weapon wasn't loaded, right?
Yeah.
Not that it's not his responsibility, but she was going through a time during that time, which she was open about.
What kind of time?
Drugs, things of that
money.
nature.
But wasn't there also like, wasn't part of the reason the investigation was reopened was because somebody found footage of Alec Baldwin like off hours firing live rounds from that same weapon that he ended up using?
Oh boy.
So like theoretically, he probably knew that at least it was a weapon that was capable. Because a lot of times on set, you bring on, like, I just shot a movie last August that we had an AR-15 and like a mass shooting takes place during the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so we rented an AR-15, but it was a non-operable AR-15. So even if you wanted to put live rounds in it, you couldn't. It wouldn't function.
Yep.
So I think like,
Seems like a best practice.
yes. So even if he, you know, it's ultimately, it is the weapons person's responsibility for that.
Yeah.
But as a producer, which Baldwin was, that ultimately you're the end of that line, that chain of command. Like you're ultimately responsible, just like if you're the CEO of a company and you find out that people are stealing from your clients, you ultimately have to take the hit as well as the people who are doing it because it's under your roof. And I think if there is proof that Baldwin was firing live rounds on his off day or whatever with that prop weapon, that at least proves that he knew it was capable of firing live rounds, which I think is not good for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's also like we live in an age now where it's so easy to digitally alter that shit. Like you just don't ever need a weapon capable of firing live rounds on set, like ever again.
Yeah.
You know, because I know the argument is like the recoil in the chamber and the smoke and all that stuff, like the real feel of it. And it's like you can VFX all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like if people can VFX like forest fires and houses burning down, you can do a little from a gun chamber.
Totally.
I don't know, but we'll get into it.
Can't wait.
We'll get into it. Everybody go listen to some Michael Jackson.
From Spotify, so he gets royalties.
So Blanket gets royalties.
That's right.
Yeah. Blanket was held off the balcony. He has therapy bills.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's innocent in all this.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I just saw a someone posted a photo of Paris Jackson recently, and it came across my Twitter or Instagram feed, and they were saying like, look at this woman, there is no way in hell she's Michael Jackson's biological daughter. Because she's like light skin, like crystal clear blue eyes. And
Yeah.
it's like, maybe that's a conspiracy theory worth looking into. I don't know.
Wow.
Was that Lisa Marie and Michael Paris?
No, he brought in someone, I believe, for her.
Like a surrogate?
Yeah. I'm like fairly certain
Hmm.
it was Lisa Marie.
Okay.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.